Have you ever been 100% sure something happened in WWE only to find out it never did? Or maybe a moment you swore looked different just doesn't match the same footage anymore? Well, that's the Mandela Effect at work, when entire groups of people remember something one way, but reality says otherwise. In this video, we're gonna look at WWE Mandela Effects that will make you question your wrestling memory, so get ready because nothing in WWE is ever quite what it seems.
Figure out the hard way that the bloodline is stronger than the club.
Most fans associate the Bloodline with Roman Reigns and his heel turn in 2020, the moment that he reinvented himself and aligned with the Usos to dominate WWE. Some people even believe the name was coined by wrestling fans online long before the turn actually happened. There's even fans who believe that WWE took the idea from Reddit. But here's the twist. That faction name, it's not new. It's been around since at least 2016. Right after WrestleMania 32, Roman Reigns entered a feud with AJ Styles, and that rivalry quickly escalated into a full-blown faction war, and Styles brought in Gallows and Anderson, his Bullet Club backup, while Roman got support from the Usos. During this time, the WWE didn't just loosely group them together, they explicitly marketed the trio as the Bloodline on TV and social media.
That the bloodline is stronger.
The three were also featured again in late 2019, reinforcing the idea that the family unit and the name were already in motion well before the Tribal Chief era ever began. So no, the Bloodline didn't start in 2020 and the fans didn't come up with the name. It really began in 2016, but nobody was really paying attention. Fans have been butchering Mr. Perfect's name for decades. Let's clear this up once and for all. His name was Curt Hennig, not Henning. Curt Hennig made his WWE debut back in January 1982 and later was known as Mr. Perfect, but for some reason an overwhelming number of fans and even wrestlers and commentators have spent years mispronouncing and misspelling his last name. Whether it was a slip of the tongue or just a collective confusion, Curt Hennig somehow became a widely accepted version of his name despite it being completely wrong. It's one of the most persistent Mandela effects in wrestling, and it's perfectly incorrect. His name is truly Curt Hennig, not Henning. A super kick through the window? Not quite. It's one of the most shocking betrayals in WWE history, the moment the Rockers exploded on the barbershop, and many fans remember Shawn Michaels delivering that infamous super kick to Marty Jannetty, and that sent him crashing through the glass window in one smooth motion. But here's the thing, that's not what happened. Yes, Michaels did hit the super kick, but Jannetty did not go flying through the window because of it. Shawn actually threw him through the glass afterwards, and over time the two actions have been merged in the minds of fans, turning a two-step assault into one brutal, seamless moment. It's still iconic, it's just not exactly how you remember it. And while we're clearing things up, let's talk about the commentary of this moment. Right after the betrayal, Bobby Heenan famously joked saying that Jannetty tried to dive through the window to escape.
Jannetty tried to dive through the window to escape.
And that is when Gorilla Monsoon fired back instantly with the line saying, "Are you blind?"
Are you blind? What an act of cowardice.
But some fans swear they remember Monsoon yelling, "Will you stop?" which was his trademark phrase.
The bug jumping out of McGregor's hair. Job.
That line was a Monsoon classic, but it's not the one that he used in this scenario. This is just another moment where the memory doesn't quite match the footage, but it still lives rent-free in wrestling history. Kane had one of the most unforgettable debuts in WWE history. It was Bad Blood in Your House in 1997. The lights dropped, the organs hit, and out walks a masked monster led by Paul Bearer, standing face to face with The Undertaker during the first ever Hell in a Cell match. And that's when you heard this.
That's gotta be Kane! That's gotta be Kane!
You can hear it in your head, right? Most fans would swear that the iconic call came from Jim Ross, who was the voice of so many legendary moments. But here's the twist. This one was not JR, it was actually Vince McMahon.
That's gotta be Kane! That's gotta be Kane!
In the final stretch of his time as a full-time commentator, McMahon was the one who shouted out that spine-tingling line as Kane ripped the cell door off his hinges. It's one of those moments where the memory has been rewritten by years of association. We expect JR to be the one behind the call, so our brains just fill in the blank. But give credit where it's due. Vince absolutely nailed that delivery of that line, and a legend was born. Speaking of Kane, what's the deal with the green gear? Turns out it never existed. For years, a strange photo has made the rounds online. Kane supposedly was wearing green gear during his tag team run with X-Pac in the late 90s, and some fans even swear they remember seeing him wear it live, but the truth is, it never happened. Kane himself shut down the rumor during an appearance on the October 19th episode of WWE's The Bump, where he made it crystal clear.
There is no green gear. There was never going to be any green gear, and there never will be green gear. Kane's red and black all the way, man. That's one of those deals that that sparked on the internet, and that's the first time I'd ever seen it, was when people started talking about the green Kane, like, you know, part of DX, and I'm going, yeah, that was, to my knowledge, that was never even discussed.
According to the Big Red Machine, the iconic red and black look was the one non-negotiable aspect of his character, and any green renderings out there are simply fan-made edits or photoshops gone viral. It's a textbook Mandela Effect, a false memory repeated so many times that it became real, but this one came straight from the source, and he's not seeing green. Chris Jericho's Millennium countdown wasn't as long as you think. Y2J's arrival in WWE is remembered as one of the most hyped debuts of the Attitude Eras. As the lights dimmed, a mysterious countdown hit 0, and out comes Chris Jericho, who interrupted none other than The Rock. It was the kind of entrance that instantly stamped Jericho as a big deal. Many fans believe this countdown to Millennium lasted for months or years, when in reality it only ran for 6 weeks. The clock first appeared on the June 20th episode of Raw in 1999, and Jericho made his debut exactly 6 weeks later on August 9th. That's it. No multiple months long buildup, no slow burn mystery, just a 6-week tease that stuck in our minds like it lasted a lifetime. So why do fans remember it being so much longer? It's simple. Jericho used the countdown gimmick multiple times over the years, whether it was his original debut, one of his dramatic returns, or even a few trolling countdowns that led to nothing. The countdown to Y2J became part of his brand, and like a lot of good branding, it blurred the lines between memory and reality. It's just another case where the clock ran shorter than our nostalgia says it did. Do you remember CM Punk's promise to bring back the ice cream bars? Well, they actually never came back, at least not during the summer of Punk. It was 2011, and CM Punk was at the top of the wrestling world with all the eyes on him, and we got the magical pipe bomb. That would later turn into the infamous walkout with the WWE Championship at Money in the Bank. During the storyline, Punk had a very specific list of demands to Vince McMahon, and one of them was the return of WWE's classic 1980s ice cream bars. Over the years, fans have sworn that WWE actually brought them back as part of the storyline, but they didn't. Sure, there was a t-shirt with the classic bar design, and yes, WWE did eventually release a new ice cream sandwich years later, but that came and went quickly, long after Punk was gone. This is where things get a little fuzzy, because the real ice cream bars made their return in 2021, and that wasn't even in WWE. They came back during Punk's AEW debut in Chicago, when he treated fans to actual CM Punk themed bars from a local vendor. That moment was so perfect, so poetic, that it retroactively convinced people it happened before. But the truth is, during the summer of Punk in 2011, the only thing cool was CM Punk himself. The ice cream, on the other hand, just didn't happen. Did you know that Hulk Hogan was not the first person to body slam Andre the Giant? That's just a myth that the fans and Vince McMahon created around the WrestleMania 3 moment. Hulk Hogan's body slam of Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 is one of the most iconic moments in wrestling history, but it's also become the foundation of a popular myth. For years, fans believed that Hogan was the first ever person to body slam the 8th wonder of the world during their legendary 1987 showdown. However, that's simply not true. Before Hogan's famous slam, wrestlers like Harley Race and Stan Hansen had already pulled off that feat. In fact, Hogan himself had body slammed Andre the Giant 7 years earlier in 1980. So while the moment at Mania 3 was historic, it wasn't the first time the massive Andre had been slammed. Hell in a what cell? You're not the only one who remembers it differently. For decades, WWE's towering steel structure has been known as Hell in a Cell, but for some fans, that's not how they remember it. Instead, they swear it was the Hell in the Cell. It's a subtle difference, it's just one little word, but it's been enough to spark one of wrestling's most persistent Mandela effects. So what's the truth? Officially, the match has always been known as the Hell in a Cell. That's how it appears on pay-per-view posters, commentary, and marketing, almost without exception. Almost. Back in 2000, during the build-up to the legendary 6-man Armageddon Hell in a Cell match, WWE actually did call it Hell in the Cell in promotional material and hype packages. It was a rare moment where the company tweaked the phrasing, and that single deviation was enough to leave a permanent imprint on the memories of fans. So if you've ever second-guessed yourself thinking, wait, wasn't it Hell in the Cell? Now you know why. It wasn't a dream, it was WWE doing it for one night only. In 2005, Muhammad Hassan was at the center of one of WWE's most controversial storylines. During an episode of SmackDown, Hassan summoned a group of masked men in balaclavas to attack The Undertaker. It was a segment that aired on the same day as the London bombings, and the timing could not have been worse, and the WWE was met with immediate backlash. But here's the Mandela effect of that angle. Many fans recall the attackers carrying Hassan's lifeless body backstage. In reality, it was Daivari, his manager, who was dragged away, not Hassan. It's a subtle but widely misremembered moment, proving that sometimes even the darkest angles get distorted in the fog of wrestling history. We gotta talk about The Rock's custom Brahma Bull belt that was never used on WWE TV. For years, fans have sworn that The Rock once carried a custom Brahma Bull version of the WWE Championship, just like how Stone Cold had his iconic Smoking Skull belt. It's easy to see why. The design is well known online, and the WWE shop even sold replicas, and it just feels like something that would have happened during the Attitude Era. But in reality, The Rock's custom belt never actually made it to television. The WWE did design and commission it, but the plan was scrapped before it even showed up on screen. So while The Rock did recently carry the People's Championship in 2024, the Brahma Bull Championship belt remains one of the coolest designs that was never officially introduced on WWE programming. It's a classic case of our brains filling in the blanks of what should have happened. Did you know the Kliq was never an on-screen group? The infamous faction was exclusive to behind the scenes. The Kliq, consisting of Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and X-Pac, is legendary for their backstage influence and of course the infamous curtain call at the Madison Square Garden live event in 1996. But despite their strong bond, there was never an on-screen group. Fans may recall seeing them together in various factions like D-Generation X or the NWO, but the Kliq never officially appeared in a cohesive unit on WWE TV. This misremembering likely stems from WWE documentaries and retrospectives that highlight their backstage influence, which may have shaped fans' perceptions of the group as being more prominent on screen than they actually were. Let's talk about one of the biggest myths in WWE history, and no, it's not a misremembered move or logo. It's the idea that Stone Cold Steve Austin said Austin 316 at the King of the Ring 1996 pay-per-view and immediately became the hottest superstar in the company. You've heard the story a million times, right? One promo, the crowd explodes, Austin 316 shirts flood arenas, and boom, the Attitude Era is born. Legendary stuff. But that's not exactly how it went down. In fact, the real story is way more of a slow burn than you remember. After King of the Ring, Austin didn't exactly shoot to the top. For most of the summer of '96, he was still floating around the mid-card. He wrestled Mark Mero at Fully Loaded, wasn't even on the SummerSlam main card, and wasn't a huge presence at the fall pay-per-views either. What's even crazier is the fact that he was still getting booed on TV, including the night after King of the Ring when he faced The Undertaker. Austin didn't even have the iconic Glass Shatter entrance theme yet. Things didn't really heat up until Bret Hart returned at Survivor Series, and Austin finally got that kind of spotlight that he needed to show what he could do. The 1997 Royal Rumble was a turning point, and by WrestleMania 13, he was off to the races, but that took many months, even though people think it only took a couple weeks. Look, it's just one of those moments where WWE's version of history sounds cleaner, cooler, and more cinematic than what actually happened. And that's where the Mandela Effect creeps in. Because if you ask most fans, they'll swear they remember Crouch chanting Austin 316 the very next night, but the truth is, that legend took time to build. A lot of fans recall a bizarre match between The Rock and the British Bulldog in a dog poop match from the Attitude Era. It sounds wild, right? Well, that match actually never took place. The confusion likely comes from their singles match that took place on October 4th, 1999 on an episode of Raw. The match ended in a no contest with a rock bottom to the British Bulldog and a pile of dog feces, which led to many fans mistakenly remembering it as a dog poop match. The event was simply a moment of humiliation in their feud, not a full-fledged match that centered around dog poop. So no, there was no dog poop match, it was just your classic Attitude Era chaos. One of the biggest Mandela effects in wrestling history involves Kurt Angle and his finishers. For years, fans have believed that a submission finisher was called the Angle Lock. It just sounds right. It's clever, it fits his name, and it feels exactly like the kind of branding WWE would use, but it never was. The move is and always has been the Ankle Lock. Yep, just ankle, not angle. No pun, no angle twist, and it turns out there's a reason for that. Kurt Angle actually addressed this directly, putting the debate to rest once and for all.
Settle an old debate. I feel like fans online argue this sometimes. Did you call it the ankle lock or the angle lock?
The fans would call it the angle lock.
I see.
I call it the ankle lock because I didn't want to take away from Ken Shamrock. That's the word he used was ankle. I wanted to continue with that out of respect for Ken.
So while it might have felt like WWE called it the Angle Lock during your childhood, that's just your brain playing tricks on you. It's just the perfect example of a Mandela effect, and you'd probably bet your milk money on it, but nope, it's just the Ankle Lock. Still brutal, still iconic, just not as punny as we thought. Almost everyone is convinced that Sheamus, X-Pac, and Hardcore Holly all held the Intercontinental Championship, but in reality, none of them did. Hardcore Holly had a memorable moment in 1995 when he almost won the IC title from Jeff Jarrett, but it was overturned due to a rope break, and the title was never his. Sheamus, despite his success in WWE, never won the IC title, despite his focus on it during his early career, and he's now even joked about it being a curse. And then you've got X-Pac, who had a decorated career. That decorated career, however, does not include the IC belts. So why do fans remember them as IC champs? It's likely because of their prominent feuds for the title or moments where they held the belt high, showing off to the crowd like they were gonna be next in line. Despite that, they never actually captured it. Jake the Snake Roberts is often remembered as one of the most captivating figures in wrestling history. His psychological storytelling, the chilling presence of his snake, and the invention of the DDT made him a standout star. Despite his immense popularity and influence, Roberts never held the WWE Championship or any title in the company for that matter. The absence of gold is surprising to many fans, leading to a collective misremembering that he must have been a champion at some point in the WWE. After all, how could someone so important to the wrestling landscape not have held a top title? The confusion is understandable, especially considering that Roberts was once slated to feud with Hulk Hogan for the WWE Championship. However, when fans began cheering Jake over Hogan, that is when the storyline was abruptly dropped to maintain Hogan's hero status. Roberts himself has addressed this, stating that he didn't need a championship to validate his career. He believed his character and storytelling were compelling enough without the belt. If you ask a lot of fans how Rey Mysterio won the WWE Championship in 2011, they'll confidently tell you it was a grueling one-night tournament and that Rey Mysterio beat multiple top guys, climbed the mountain, and then tragically lost it to John Cena on the same night, right? Well, not exactly. In reality, the tournament to crown a new WWE champion after CM Punk left with the title stretched over 2 weeks, not just one night. Most of the matches did happen on a single episode of Raw, but the final, Rey Mysterio versus The Miz, opened up the next week's Raw. And yes, that's the same night that John Cena would beat Ray later in the main event, followed by CM Punk's shocking return with his own WWE title. It's easy to misremember this one, but technically, Ray didn't run the table in one night, even if it totally felt like he did as a kid. Next, we have to talk about the Ultimate Warrior and his tattoo, but not just any tattoo, a tattoo of himself. Yep, you read that right. On his bicep, the Warrior had an image of himself. Now you might be thinking, wait, what? I don't remember that at all. And honestly, you're not alone. It's one of those strange details that seem to slip through the cracks of memory. Most photos of Warrior don't exactly zoom in on his arm, so we never really got a full view of his self-portrait tattoo. It's like a piece of the puzzle that wasn't in the picture, even though it was there the whole time. However, if you take a deeper dive now, you'll find rare photos on WWE.com that prove it's real. For many of us, this tattoo is just another quirky part of Warrior's already larger-than-life personality that somehow got lost in the shuffle. A tattoo of himself is a classic Warrior move, to be honest. X-Pac's theme song didn't start off the way that you think it did. There are few WWE entrance themes as unforgettable as the classic DX anthem, and when it came to X-Pac, he had his own spin on it. Most fans swear that his theme song started with him screaming X-Pac as he hit the stage.
X-Pac!
Think you can tell us what to do?
But that's not actually true. The real intro is just a loud "make some noise," which is also the name of his song.
Make some noise!
X-Pac!
Think you can tell us what to do?
Sure, X-Pac is shouted a second later, but that false memory of it being the very first word has stuck in fans' minds over the years. Did you know DX actually didn't ride a tank, even though we all thought they did? It was one of the most legendary moments in wrestling history. D-Generation X invaded WCW Monday Nitro while rolling up in a tank. Except they didn't. Yeah, it turns out that mental image we all have of Triple H and the gang rolling deep in military hardware is just a bit off. In reality, it was just a Jeep with a turret mounted on the top, not exactly battlefield ready. Still, the side profile kind of fooled us, and the chaos they caused made it feel way bigger than it was. So yeah, DX didn't ride a tank, but it felt like they did, and that's why the Mandela Effect lives on. Goldberg's stiff kick to Bret Hart at Starrcade 1999 is often blamed for ending the Hitman's career. That much is true, but what isn't true is that the kick gave Bret Hart his stroke. In reality, Bret suffered the stroke years later in 2002 after a bike accident. He hit a pothole, was thrown off of the bicycle, and landed hard on the back of his head. The injury was severe, but it was completely unrelated to Goldberg's infamous kick. So while that kick did retire Bret from wrestling, it did not cause the stroke, even if a lot of us over the years thought it did. Long before Kane emerged as The Undertaker's storyline brother, the name Kane was briefly associated with The Undertaker himself. In his early WWE run, The Undertaker was known as Kane The Undertaker. The name was short-lived, appearing in only a couple segments before being dropped. The decision to remove Kane from his name was likely made to streamline his persona, allowing The Undertaker to stand alone as a more impactful identity. Years later, the name Kane was repurposed for The Undertaker's on-screen brother, adding a layer of continuity to WWE storytelling. So if you recall seeing or hearing Kane The Undertaker, you're not imagining things. It was a brief but real part of wrestling history. Anyways, that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And here are some other videos I think you might enjoy.